Help me. I can't walk, begged the girl. The Mafia boss made them regret it. The city of Noctira never truly slept. Best, even at night when the sky turned dark like cold iron, the streets remained alive with whispers, footsteps, and hidden danger. Tall stone buildings leaned toward each other as if they were listening. Lanterns burned with blue fire, casting long shadows that twisted along the ground like living things. People of Noctira had learned one rule early in life. Do not stop. Do not ask. Do not look back. Because help was rare, and mercy was dangerous. On one such night, a young girl stumbled into the narrow street near the old market ruins. Her cloak was torn, her breath uneven. She tried to run, but her legs betrayed her. Pain shot through them like ice spreading through bone. With a quiet cry, she fell hard onto the stone road. Her name was Alara. She pressed her hands against the ground, trying to push herself up.
Her legs would not answer her. They felt heavy, frozen, as if the ground itself was holding her down.
Panic rose in her chest. She had felt this before. He glances around in despair. She knew what it meant. The curse was waking again. Baz. Footsteps echoed behind her. Alara turned her head slowly. 3 figures stepped into the lantern light. Their faces were sharp with cruelty, their smiles empty. They wore dark coats marked with silver thread, the sign of a low-level gang that served the underworld rulers of Noctira. "Well," one of them said, his voice smooth and cold, "look what the night dragged in." Break. She tried to crawl, pulling herself forward with her arms, but her strength was fading fast. The curse tightened its grip, spreading numbness through her legs. She whispered, "I can't walk." "Then you chose the wrong street," another replied. Alara's fingers trembled as she reached out, not just to them, but to anyone who might hear. "Help me," she begged. "Please." But Noctira did not answer prayers easily. High above the streets, in a tower carved from black stone and steel, a man stood at a wide window. Best. From there, the entire city looked small, like a map made of shadows and light. His name was Kalen Morvain. To most, he was not a man at all, but a legend. The Shadow King. Ruler of the city's underworld. His word decided who rose and who vanished. Kings and merchants feared him. Criminal leaders served him. Even cursed creatures of the old magic avoided his territory. Kalen watched the streets with calm, unreadable eyes. He had learned long ago that caring was weakness. Mercy had once cost him everything. Yet tonight something unusual reached him. Not a sound, but a feeling. A sharp pull in his chest, like a memory clawing its way back to the surface. Oration. His gaze moved downward, narrowing. He saw her. A girl on the ground. Surrounded, broken. Her voice carried faintly upward. Fragile, but clear. "Help me. I can't walk." Kalen's hand tightened against the cold stone of the window. That voice. It struck something buried deep inside him. Something old. Something he thought long dead. He had heard that same kind of plea once before. Many years ago, spoken in a burning hall, under a falling crown. He turned sharply.
Bring my coat, he ordered.
Within moments, Kalen was moving through the hidden passages of his tower, his long, dark coat flowing behind him. Guards stepped aside without question. None dared ask why the Shadow King himself was descending into the streets. By the time Kalen reached the market ruins, the three men were already reaching for Alara. They never saw him approach. The first man collapsed before he could even turn. The second froze in fear, eyes wide, unable to speak as Kalen's presence swallowed the air around them. The third tried to run. He did not make it 3 steps. Silence fell over the street. Alara stared up at the tall figure standing before her. His face was sharp and calm, his eyes dark but burning with something she could not name. He did not look angry. That, somehow, made it worse. The men lay still, defeated in a way that left no doubt. Whatever Kalen had done, the city would remember it by morning. Beck. He looked down at Alara. For a long moment, he said nothing. She felt suddenly small, like a child before a storm. Fear mixed with relief inside her. She did not know who he was, but she knew one thing. This man held power the way others held weapons.
I can't walk, she said again, softer now, as if the words themselves might break.
Kalen crouched slightly, studying her face. Dirt and blood marked her skin, but her eyes were clear. Strong. Unbroken. You are cursed, he said. It was not a question. By old magic. By old magic. Most people turned away when they learned that truth. Old magic was feared. Kalen reached out and gently pulled back the edge of her torn sleeve. There, glowing faintly against her skin, was a symbol burned into her flesh, a twisted sigil formed of ancient lines. Kalen's breath stopped. The same mark lived on his own chest. Hidden. Scarred. But alive. For the first time in many years, something cracked in the Shadow King's calm. Who did this to you? He asked quietly.
I don't know. It was placed on my family long ago. They said we deserved it. That we should be erased.
Kalen stood slowly. The street seemed to hold its breath. Get up, he said. She looked at him helplessly. Burf. I can't. I know. He replied. He bent down and lifted her into his arms with surprising ease. Bae. Alara gasped softly, instinctively gripping his coat. She expected cold armor, but instead felt steady warmth. People nearby watched from the shadows, eyes wide with disbelief. The Shadow King did not carry the weak. He did not save the cursed. Yet here he was, walking through Noctira with her in his arms, his gaze daring the city to challenge him. Alara rested her head against his chest, exhaustion finally winning. As she drifted toward darkness, she felt something strange. Safety. High above the city, in Kalen's fortress, healers rushed forward as he entered. Leave us, he commanded. They obeyed instantly. He placed Elara carefully on a wide stone bed. The room was quiet, lit by soft, enchanted light. Symbols carved into the walls hummed gently with restrained magic. Kaelin stood back, staring at her. Back, marked by royal magic, found in his territory. This was no accident. As he reached out, the sigil on her arm began to glow brighter. At the same moment, pain flared across Kaelin's chest, sharp and burning. The bond awakened, but Kaelin closed his eyes. The past he had buried was rising. And Noctyra was about to change. The fortress of Kaelin Morvain rose high above the city, its black spires cutting through the night like jagged teeth. Within, shadows clung to the walls, but the air was alive with magic, old and heavy. Candles flickered despite the absence of wind, their flames bending toward some unseen force. Pass. It was a place of power, a place where whispered words could summon armies, or erase them from the world. Elara had never seen anything like it. Her legs still trembled, though the pain of the curse had faded slightly. Kaelin had not yet tried to break it, nor had he offered her comfort beyond silence and a firm hand guiding her through the fortress halls. She felt a strange mix of fear and curiosity, like standing at the edge of a cliff she could not see the bottom of. He led her to a chamber that smelled faintly of burning herbs. The walls were carved with ancient runes, twisting and glowing faintly in the dark. A soft, golden light reflected from a pool of water in the center of the room. It was quiet here, almost peaceful, but even in this calm, Elara felt the weight of Kaelin's presence. Every step he took made the stones hum beneath her feet, as if the fortress itself recognized him. "Bet. You will stay here," Kaelin said, his voice calm but firm. "No one will touch you, but you will not leave the room without me." "Elara!" Swallowed, nodding. "Why are you helping me?" You don't even know me." Kaelin's eyes darkened, and for a moment they were like storm clouds ready to break. "I know enough," he said. "Enough to know the curse on you is tied to forces older than this city. Forces I once fought and lost to." Elara frowned, curiosity burning through her fear. "What do you mean?" "I mean," Kaelin said slowly, "that you are part of something much larger than you or me." Something that has followed my family for generations. And your family too, Bess. Alara's heart raced. She had always known her bloodline carried danger, but she had never imagined it would reach someone like Kaelin, someone feared by all of Noctyra. Her voice was barely a whisper. "You mean the curse?" Kaelin nodded, pacing slowly around the room. His long coat swept the floor, leaving no sound but a soft whisper of fabric. "Yes. Psst. That mark on your skin. It is old magic. Royal magic. Powerful magic. You were never meant to live freely, but to serve as a key to something greater." Alar swallowed hard. "A key to what?" Kaelin stopped and looked at her directly. "To a power I thought long gone. To a throne that no longer exists. To a future that could destroy or redeem everything." She had always wanted to be ordinary, to live quietly. Instead, she was in a fortress with a man who could end kingdoms with a word, and she carried magic she could not understand. Fear clawed at her chest, but beneath it, a strange spark of hope glimmered. Kaelin had saved her. He had saved her when no one else would. You are not like the others, he said softly, almost to himself. Most would have begged, screamed, or run. You fight. Even cursed, even broken, you fight.
Inspiration.
Elara blinked, unsure if he was praising her or merely observing. I fight because I have to, she said quietly.
I don't want to be like them. The ones who gave up, who let the world crush them. Kylan studied her for a long moment. And yet you still fall, he said. You still ask for help. Her lips trembled. I can't do it alone. For the first time, Kylan felt something he had long thought impossible, understanding. He had walked through life as a shadow, feared, untouchable. But he could see now that fear was not the same as strength, and power was not the same as control. Sometimes it was love, or what might become love, that forced the strongest to bend. He moved closer, reaching out but not touching her. You are stronger than you know, he said, but strength without guidance, pay without control, can destroy you. Elara shivered, unsure whether to feel comfort or danger. Bear. There was an intensity in his gaze that made her chest tighten. The room seemed smaller, the shadows deeper, as if the air itself had shifted. She wanted to turn away, to retreat to the small corner of the chamber where she could be safe. But something inside her, something new, kept her rooted to the spot. You speak as if you know me, she said softly. But I don't even know. I know enough, he said again. Enough to know that you cannot remain alone. The world would consume you, and the curse will not wait. Elara's eyes fell to the floor. She hated the curse, hated how helpless it made her feel. But she also hated how much she depended on Kylan in these moments, how even his presence made her feel both frightened and safe at once. For hours, they sat in silence. Kylan did not press her to speak, and Elara did not ask questions she feared the answers to. Outside the chamber, the fortress was alive with whispers and shadows. Bound. Servants moved silently, knowing when to enter and when to leave. The runes on the walls pulsed faintly, responding to the magic that bound her and the man who had saved her.
Days passed. Caitlin returned often, never speaking more than necessary, but never leaving her entirely.
Base. Slowly, Elara began to understand him. Not the legend, not the Shadow King feared by all of Noctira, but the man beneath. A man who had lost much, who had survived betrayals and curses alike. A man who carried his own kind of loneliness. You cannot hide from your magic, Kylan said one evening as they sat near the pool of water that reflected the candlelight. It is part of you. Part of your blood. Part of your family's legacy. Elara shook her head. I don't want it. I don't want to be part of any legacy. I just want freedom. But Kylan's voice was low, almost a whisper. Freedom is a dangerous thing for those born to power. You cannot choose it. Not yet, breaths. She looked at him, noticing the way his jaw tightened, the way his eyes darkened at the edges. She realized then that the Shadow King was not just powerful in body or title, but in every decision he made, in every restraint he placed on himself. He was a man bound by rules, by past failures, and by the weight of his own power. Then help me, she said, her voice steadier now. Help me learn to control it, even if I cannot be free. Kylan studied her silently. He wanted to argue, to warn her, to tell her that control came at a cost too high for anyone to pay. But in that moment he saw something in her, something that reminded him of someone he had once known, someone he had lost. And for the first time he considered the impossible. Bay. He nodded once, sharply. Then we will begin. But know this. The road ahead is dark, bad, dangerous, and you will not like all the choices you must make. Elara's stomach twisted with fear and anticipation. She had entered his world thinking she was helpless. Now, she realized she had been given a chance, not just to survive, but to rise. As Kaelin began to teach her how to awaken the magic within her safely, the bond between them strengthened in ways neither fully understood. Said his lessons were harsh, his presence intimidating. But beneath it all, there was guidance, patience, and an unspoken protection. Still, the fortress was not safe. Even as they trained, the shadows of Noctera moved, restless and hungry. Rival powers in the city sensed change, sensing the Shadow King's attention divided. Whispers of rebellion, betrayal, and ambition stirred among those who believed Kaelin's rule absolute. One night, as Elara practiced channeling a small spark of her power, a sudden chill swept through the room. The candle flames bent backward, and the water in the pool rippled violently. She gasped, stepping back. Bait. Kaelin's eyes narrowed.
Someone is here, he said.
Bait. Someone who knows about you, and knows how important you are. The fortress doors groaned under a force too heavy to be ordinary. Shadows began to gather in the hall outside the chamber, moving with purpose and intent. Elara's heart raced. The safety of the fortress was an illusion. Even here, danger could strike without warning. She looked at Kaelin, fear and trust mingling in her gaze, but Kaelin's jaw tightened. "Stay behind me," he ordered. "Ha ha! Vek ba." Do not show fear. Do not move unless I tell you. Beck. She felt the surge of magic within her, responding to his calm command. She was no longer completely helpless, but the battle ahead would test everything she had learned. The door burst open and dark figures poured into the chamber, their eyes glowing faintly in the dim light. The shadows of Noctera were real, and they had come for her. Kaelin stepped forward, his coat sweeping the floor, his presence dominating the room. Elara braced herself, realizing that the fight for her life, her magic, and the future of the city had only just begun. Breath. And in that instant she understood. Her destiny was no longer her own. Cliffhanger. The battle in the fortress hall had been brief but fierce. Pang. Shadows of Noctera, strange twisted creatures sent by rival powers, retreated when Kaelin's magic flared, wrapping the room in darkness and fire that bent to his will. Bay. Elara had felt it too, a rush of energy from the sigil on her arm, responding to the Shadow King as though they were connected by a force older than the city itself. When the last shadow dissolved into smoke, the hall was quiet again. Broken lanterns flickered. Dust hung thick in the air. Bay. Kaelin lowered his hands, his chest rising and falling with controlled breaths. His eyes, however, remained sharp, scanning every corner as if expecting another attack. Beck. Elara stayed behind him, trembling, her heart still racing. Are we safe now? She asked, her voice small. Kaelin's gaze softened just slightly as he turned to her. Safe is a word the city does not know, he said. But for now, yes. For now, you are safe. She wanted to say something, to thank him, to tell him she trusted him, but the words stuck in her throat. Instead, she nodded, feeling the truth of his power pressing against her, both protective and terrifying. In the days that followed, Kaelin taught her how to channel her magic. Every movement, every spark, every small success brought pain, sweat, and frustration. But with each lesson, Elara grew stronger, and she noticed something unsettling. The Shadow King himself was watching more than he was teaching. His eyes lingered on her hands as they glowed with light, on her posture as she struggled against the weight of the magic. And sometimes, when she thought he was elsewhere, she could feel his presence even in the quiet corners of the fortress. One night, after an exhausting day of training, Elara sat near the pool of water in her chamber. Her arms ached from controlling the magic. Her mind raced with questions about the curse, her family, and the world she had never known. Kaelin entered silently, his boots soundless on the stone floor. He leaned against the edge of the pool, watching her with a weight in his gaze that made her shiver. Brands.
You push yourself too hard, he said quietly. Strength without control is dangerous.
You must learn patience, or you will hurt yourself. Or worse, others. Elara looked up at him, frustrated. I don't want to hurt anyone, she said. I just want to be free. I want to walk, to live, to bear, to be more than this curse. Eileen stepped closer. Freedom is not given, he said. It is earned. And sometimes the cost is higher than you are willing to pay. Elara's chest tightened. She knew he was right. Desperation. Every time she tried to push her magic further, every time she moved her legs slightly or let the sigil burn bright, she felt the strain on her body and on her soul. But still, she could not stop. There was a fire inside her that demanded to be released, a longing to rise above the fear that had always chained her. Kaelin knelt down beside her, his shadow falling over her in the candlelight. Do you understand what you are fighting for? He asked. His voice was low, almost a whisper. Do you understand that your curse, your magic, is tied to more than just your life? It is tied to the fate of the city, to mine,
To the world itself. Elara swallowed hard.
She did not fully understand, but she felt the weight of his words. She had thought her life was only her own, that her suffering was private. But now she realized that the threads of destiny had tangled her with Kaelin, with Noctira, with powers she could barely imagine. I understand, she said quietly. I think. Kaelin's lips twitched, almost a smile, though it did not reach his eyes. Good. That is the beginning. But understanding alone is not enough. You must act.
You must fight. Days passed into nights, and the tension in the fortress grew.
The magic in the city stirred as if sensing the bond between Kaelin and Elara. Their lessons became battles of patience, will, and trust, and slowly a connection formed. Not a spoken one, but a silent understanding, a recognition of each other's fears and strengths.
Elara began to notice small things.
The way Kaelin's eyes softened when he thought no one was watching. The way he never left her alone, even when she begged him to let her face the training on her own. The way his voice, normally cold and commanding, would sometimes falter just slightly when he spoke about her progress. One evening, as the sun dipped beneath the jagged spires of the city, casting red light across the fortress, Kaelin approached her as she practiced her magic near the pool. You are stronger than I expected, he said. His words were steady, but there was something unspoken beneath them. Perhaps too strong. Asian, too strong? She asked. Is that bad? Kalen's gaze held hers, sharp yet distant. British. Strength is never bad, but power without understanding, without control, can be a curse worse than any spell placed on you.
She lowered her hands, letting the magic fade.
I don't want that, she said. I want control, but I want to be ready for whatever comes. Kylan studied her silently, beret. Then, slowly, he knelt beside her.
And you will be, he said.
But know this, the world outside these walls will not wait for you to be ready. It will come for you, and it will come for me. Breast on her chest! For the first time she understood the danger she faced, not just from her curse, but from the forces that had placed it and the enemies who waited in the shadows of Noctira. Then I will be ready, she said softly.
No matter what. Kalen's eyes softened for a moment, and a small smile touched his lips.
That is what I wanted to hear, he said. But the question is, are you ready for what it will cost? Alara's heart skipped a beat. She did not know the answer. She could feel the pull of destiny, the weight of magic, and the pressure of a bond forming with the Shadow King that neither of them fully understood. And then, as if on cue, the fortress trembled. A dark presence filled the air, heavier than before. Shadows moved in unnatural ways, and the faint glow of her sigil pulsed like a warning. Kalen stood immediately, his hands sweeping through the air as shadows coiled around him like serpents. They are coming, he said, his voice low and dangerous. Enemies who will not stop until they take you, or me, or both. Elara felt a surge of fear, but also a strange surge of courage. She could feel the magic in her responding to his, their bond growing stronger, their power intertwined. She could fight. She could help. Kalen's eyes met hers, and for a moment there was no darkness, no fear, only understanding. Stay close, he commanded.
And trust me. Elara nodded, her hands glowing faintly with magic. Together they stepped toward the source of the disturbance.
Burst. Shadows writhed along the walls, whispering threats she could not understand. The city outside trembled, sensing the storm that had begun in the fortress. The first wave of attackers burst through the hall, and Cowlin moved with deadly grace, every motion precise and terrifying. Elara followed, her magic sparking and flaring, her fear transformed into determination. But together they fought, not as master and student, not as ruler and cursed girl, but as partners, bound by fate, trust, and the unspoken promise of something neither fully understood yet. The battle raged, and the fortress trembled under the weight of power, magic, and ambition. Every strike, every spell, every shadow that fell reminded them of the cost of power, and of the bond that had formed between them. And then, just as the last shadow seemed to dissolve, a voice echoed from the darkness, deep, commanding, and filled with malice. Best. You cannot win, Kaelin Morvain, it said. Not with your power. The city will fall, and so will your heart. Kaelin's eyes narrowed, and Elara felt her magic flare wildly, responding to the threat. But the voice carried weight beyond anything they had faced before. Colin turned to Elara, his expression tense. Prepare yourself, he said. This is only the beginning. Bear.
And what comes next will test everything you have learned. Elara felt a chill run through her. Her heart pounded.
Her magic trembled, and in that instant she realized the truth. The cost of power was not just strength or skill. It was the courage to face a destiny that could destroy them both. The fortress trembled under the weight of approaching power. Outside, the city of Noctira shivered in anticipation, as if the very stones and shadows knew that fate itself was coming to the gates. Bare. Elara stood beside Kaelin, her heart racing. The glow of her sigil burned brighter than ever, pulsing in rhythm with her own fear and courage. She had trained, learned, and endured under Kaelin's watchful eyes, but now, facing the cloaked figure emerging from the shadows, she felt the full weight of her destiny pressing on her chest. Kaelin's coat swirled around him, dark as midnight, shadows bending to his will. His gaze locked on the figure approaching. "This is it," he said quietly to Elara. "The one who holds your curse and the fate of the city." Elara swallowed. "I'm ready," she whispered, though part of her quivered. The truth was, no one could ever truly be ready for a moment like this.
But she knew she could not run.
Not now. Not ever. The figure stepped forward. Cloaked in black, their eyes glowed with the same ancient magic that burned on Alara's arm. There was a weight in their presence that pressed down on the room, as if the very air had thickened with power. The sigil on Elara's skin flared in response, as if recognizing its origin. "Kaelin Morvain," the figure said, voice deep and chilling, "you have interfered with destiny for too long. This child does not belong to you, or to this city. Return her, or face the consequences." Kylan's jaw tightened. "She belongs to no one but herself," he said, his voice steady but cold. "And I will protect her, no matter the cost." The figure's lips curled into a shadowed smile. "Then you will pay the price!" Before either of them could act, shadows erupted from the walls, moving with speed and ferocity. They were not like the attackers from before. These were stronger, smarter, more terrifying. They swept toward them in a wave, bending the air with dark magic. Elara's fear flared, but it was quickly replaced by determination. She felt her magic surge, the sigil on her arm burning brightly. Bess. She lifted her hands, focusing every ounce of energy she had learned to control. The shadows recoiled, as if sensing her growing power. Bay. Colin moved beside her, a force of shadows and fire swirling around him. Together they formed a protective circle, their powers intertwining. Every movement of Kaelin's hand, every pulse of Elara's magic, worked in harmony, pushing back the darkness.
"You are strong," the cloaked figure said, stepping closer, the glow from their eyes casting an eerie light across the hall.
"Stronger than I imagined, but strength alone cannot save you." Kaelin's eyes narrowed. "It is not strength alone," he said. "It is trust. And you underestimate her." Elara felt a surge of courage. "I will not be afraid," she said aloud. "I will not let you control me." The figure recoiled slightly, surprised at her defiance. "Bold," they said, "but boldness without mastery is dangerous." With that, the figure raised their hands, summoning dark energy that crackled like thunder. Kaelin and Elara braced, their combined powers forming a shield of light and shadow. The hall shook, windows shattered. Bay. Stone cracked under the pressure. Time seemed to slow. Elara felt every memory of her training flash through her mind, the long hours of controlling sparks, the moments of frustration and fear, the endless lessons from Kaelin. She realized then that she had grown far beyond the girl who had begged for help in the streets. She was no longer helpless. Kalen looked at her, his expression a mix of pride and urgency. Band. D-U-I-L-R-A. Use everything you've learned. Trust yourself. Trust us. Ilara took a deep breath, closing her eyes. She let the magic flow through her, not forcing it, not controlling it entirely, but becoming part of it. Her sigil flared, bright enough to light the entire hall, pure and steady. It pulsed in rhythm with Kalen's shadows, creating a force that pushed back the dark energy. The cloaked figure staggered, taken aback. "Impossible!" they hissed. "No mortal, no cursed child should have such power." Elara opened her eyes.
I am not just cursed, she said firmly.
"I am not just a child. I am Ilara, and I choose my own destiny." A blast of light shot from her hands, striking the figure. Shadows scattered, screams echoing as the dark magic shattered. The figure fell back, revealing themselves fully. A tall figure cloaked in black, but now with eyes wide in disbelief. Kalen stepped forward, his voice calm but commanding. "Leave this place. Take your darkness with you." "You have lost." The figure glared, but the power they had held for centuries could not overcome the bond and the combined strength of Kalen and Ilara. Despair. Slowly, reluctantly, they retreated, disappearing into the shadows of Noctira. The fortress fell silent. Only the faint hum of magic remained, the walls glowing softly from the energy that lingered. Ilara sank to her knees, exhausted but triumphant. Kalen knelt beside her, placing a hand gently on her shoulder. "You did it," he said quietly. "You saved yourself and the city."
Elara looked up at him, a mixture of awe and relief in her eyes. "We did it," she corrected.
She could feel their connection. The bond formed in battle and trust, stronger than fear. Kalen nodded, a small, almost unrecognizable smile touching his lips. Breaths. "Yes, we did." For the first time, the Shadow King allowed himself to feel more than control, more than fear. He allowed himself to feel pride, not in his power, but in her strength. And in that moment, something shifted inside him. The darkness that had ruled him for so long began to fade, replaced by something warmer. Something he had not known he could feel. Hope. Ilara stood slowly, her legs strong beneath her. The curse that had once frozen her melted away, replaced by the mastery she had earned through struggle and trust. She was free, not only from the spell, but from fear. She turned to Kalen, her eyes shining. I can walk," she said softly, almost in disbelief. Kalen studied her, his expression unreadable for a moment, then softened. "Bay," he said. "And you can rise. Bay. Not because I saved you, but because you became stronger than any curse or shadow."
They stood together, looking out through the shattered windows at the city below. Noctira was not whole, not yet.
But it was alive, breathing, ready to change. And for the first time in centuries, Kalen felt he could step into a future not ruled by fear, but by choice. Elara placed a hand on his arm, hesitant but steady. "Kalen, what now?" she asked. He looked at her, the man beneath the shadow, and for the first time, he smiled fully. "Now," he said, "we rebuild together. And no one, not curse, not darkness, not destiny, will control us again. The city beyond the fortress stirred with the first rays of dawn, pale gold cutting through the night. The shadows that had haunted it for centuries receded slowly, defeated not by power alone, but by courage, trust, and the bond of two souls who had faced their fears and risen. Kalen extended his hand to Alara. She took it without hesitation, feeling the warmth and strength that had once seemed impossible. Together they stepped out into the hall, ready to face the world, ready to protect the city, and ready to embrace whatever destiny remained. But this time, on their own terms. The fortress no longer felt dark. The shadows no longer felt threatening. And the future was no longer a curse. It was theirs. As they walked toward the gates, the first birds of the season flew over Noctira, their songs echoing through the city. A symbol appeared in the sky, not of crowns, not of fear, but of freedom, choice, and hope. And for Kalen and Elara, the Shadow King and the girl who had once begged for help, the world was beginning anew. Noctira would remember the night, but not for the darkness, but it would remember the dawn.